Today we're talking toilets. Why, you ask? Well, there was a design competition recently held in the city of Toronto looking for new public washroom designs. And we have 4 right here. These are the top 4 selections, and we're going to take a look at them, and we'll figure out which one was the ultimate winner of the design competition, and we'll reveal that at the end, so stick around. So these are the 4 designs. We'll take a look at each of those, but first, sort of, what are we talking about here? Well, this competition was put on by, I think it's like an advocacy group, basically called the Toronto Public Space Committee, and they're basically launching this ideas competition. And if you don't know what a design competition is, it's a really cool idea. I think they're great. You basically have a problem, you invite architects, students, designers, whoever to basically join, and submit an idea for a project that kind of speaks to the issue that you're looking at. So, in this one, we invite you to propose design ideas for inclusive and innovative public washrooms to help advocate and spread awareness for the urgent need of robust public washroom network in our city. And I think every city can use this, right? Like if you're ever traveling somewhere, you know, public washrooms are a nice thing. Like clean public washrooms are a nice thing to have. So it's this Toronto Public Space Committee. They're taking on this advocacy role. Blah, blah, blah. Just awareness in the city of Toronto, sure. Demonstrating innovative ways to incorporate public washrooms into the public realm. And I think that's the challenge. Is like, how do you, because this could apply to any city, right? And we mentioned that. These designs, these washrooms, you could plop these into any city, and that would be great. But how do you fit it into the public space? And that's the challenge, because every city has their public space, every city can use more washrooms, and it's integrating those two. And I think if you solve that in a successful way, a lot of these designs could be used in a number of cities all over the world. So here's the links. I'll throw these in the description down below if you want to check it out. That's public space. And specifically, if you want to look at the winners, we have their design boards here, what they submitted. And you can look at those in more detail online if you'd like. So just for our own sake, what makes a good public washroom? When we're looking at these things, how do you judge them, right? And this was judged by a jury of panelists, I guess, juryists. Anyway, there was a jury of, I don't know how many people or who it was, but they were judging these anonymously. They don't know who they are. They just they get to look at these little submissions, right? Each team submits these 2 like design boards, and then that's what the jury looks at. But what really makes a good public washroom? And I just spent a second looking at this myself. Like privacy, that's obviously important with any washroom, no brainer. Safety, I think that's a big one, especially for public washrooms. When people are coming and going, you want to feel safe when you're using these things. Cleanliness, this might be the most important one into having people use them. So these things aren't just dirty old rooms out in the public square somewhere. But cleanliness, I think, is really important. And it kind of ties into this one, inviting and comfortable. And that's where I was just thinking, like, these have to be spaces and buildings and washrooms that you actually will want to use. You want them to be inviting. You don't want people to go in and, like, be afraid to touch anything because it looks dirty. And, you want people to use these, but you also want them to be clean, obviously, right? Accessibility, I think that's a big part of this design competition, and just keeping them available for use for anyone with various disabilities of who knows what kind. And durability, these buildings out in public sometimes take a beating, so durability is probably important. But let's take a look at the actual designs here. I'm just going to delete a couple of the marks that I made there so we can look at these fresh. And I've mixed these up, so we'll look at the winner at the end and let you know. So this one is called In Passing, first and foremost. And they sort of based this off of the design brief mentioned, those big concrete culverts that you see in ditches. And it's kind of like referencing this sort of industrial architecture or infrastructure. And you can imagine that these are almost repurposed giant concrete tubes. Kind of sculptural. They look cool. They kind of remind me a little bit of like Super Mario, maybe. If these are painted green, they would look like those green tubes for sure. Super durable, though. It's interesting that these are... What I like about this, and we'll get into a little more detail here, is that they're individual units, and you can start to aggregate them and add to them. So that what they've shown here in this main rendering is what? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Maybe there's 7 of them in there, 8 of them. There's one hidden back there somewhere. So you can take 8 of these little pods and kind of group them together into a larger grouping of washrooms, and it's more of a zone of washrooms. Or you could probably just have one out in the park somewhere, right? And it still matches. It doesn't cost any more because each one of these is kind of individually produced and manufactured. And so I like that. It's scalable. You can have one in a small little park somewhere, or you could have 15 of these, at Young and Dundas or something, right? So in a busy spot where they're going to be used all the time, and people are really needing washrooms. So I like that idea. The idea of being able to multiply these. They're pretty compact, pretty simple. Looks like there's a green roof on top here. That's kind of cool. I would say, so this is a concrete tube, and it looks like this is all glass block around here. This is like a ring of glass block that kind of, you can see how that transfers over here. And it goes around like, I don't know, 75% of this circumference, and then just a little bit of concrete in the middle. But then it's got a big concrete kind of lid on top. I don't know how realistic that is if you have a great big piece of concrete held up by glass blocks. Might be a little sketchy structurally. I don't know. Floor plans, I'm not going to go into these in too much detail. Looks like they have their turning radius, all that kind of stuff. So it's an accessible washroom, changing table, all the basic stuff that you'd like to see in a nice washroom. It kind of does the trick. What else do we have here? And you can see, this is a really cool diagram. I like this. This is a nice image for the jury that it tells a lot. So this is a plan diagram looking straight down. At the top of these things, and a group of them, right? We have, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these. And they're grouped in a way that it's clustered, and then you can start to see how you can deploy these things. And this is, again, a really nice diagram of saying, hey, here's a map showing some portion of Toronto, and like, hey, you can have one here, we could throw one in here, you could throw one down here. And maybe this one is 8 units, but this is a little smaller. Maybe this is 5 units, and we have one just tucked away in here. Maybe that's like 2 units. Maybe that's 1 unit. And you can start to see how these things start to populate the city a little bit. You start to recognize them and say, hey, that looks like a washroom that I saw at this other park that's close to my house. And then it becomes a little bit of a beacon or a wayfinding device where you recognize what it is and what the purpose is, and that's kind of what you want. So I think that's a win. It's a cool project. Simple. Do I love the way it looks? Not so much. I mean, it's fine. It's pretty industrial. They have some benches in there to sit on. I don't know what these little things are here. Just like fountains or something, maybe. I don't know. It's fine. It's kind of cool. I think also from a safety perspective, we talked about that. I think having a rounded series of buildings is really good, and you can really see that in plan here, where there's no corners. Like if this is in a park and it's dark at night, you don't want to have corners that people can hide behind and jump out at people, right? So having all circular shapes really helps with that. You can see people a little further away. It's just there's that added element of visibility and safety, which is great. Didn't really look at this diagram. What do we have here? Just talking about the cluster of pods. We sort of looked at that. Circulation. This is cool that people can pass through it, right? They're showing these little sort of dashed arrow lines, and it's instead of one central monolithic building, it's these pods that you can kind of weave through, and it preserves some sight lines, and it's kind of cool in that fashion. Okay, so that was furniture. We were looking at these little, they're showing these little furniture pods here, right, which match, and that's what these are. So like the benches, another bench, or whatever it is, a table kind of thing. So cool. I mean, kind of a cool project. Moving on. Yeah, well, sure enough. Fountain. There we go. They're simple, but I like that. I mean, they'd be pretty cost effective. Yeah, realistically, I feel like this is done maybe by a student. Just looking at this in section now, like the thickness of this roof here. Just looking right here, because this is the green roof, right? Like we talked about, we want to have some green roof with some grass growing up. Sure. Which makes, this is all dirt then, obviously, but then that's a lot of weight. Green roofs are heavy. And then you have this really, really thin little roof there. Structurally, I don't think that's appropriate. And then again, we have this massive sort of concrete lid on top of this row of glass blocks. What looks to be glass blocks anyway. And again, structurally, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Probably not exactly how the structural engineer would want you to carry that out. But anyway, moving on. We got project number 2. So the first one was called In Passing. We looked at that. Next, we have the Toronto toilet. This is from a team in London. Actually, where was the first? Oh, so this is from someone. The first one was someone in Toronto. That's really cool. Now we have a team from London. So someone from across the pond trying to solve the same problem. And this is cool. So this first image, I like this a lot. And this tells a lot just without any words. You know that it's a toilet based on or a series of toilets, washrooms, based on the competition brief, right? But it's just got this whole other added element up here on the front, and it looks like kind of like a retro diner or something. So instantly your mind is jumping to the idea of like, oh, there's probably someone working in here. Like maybe you can get some snacks or something is for sale. But just the fact that you have someone working here, instantly you don't even know that, right? But just it takes your mind to like, oh, so someone's attending to this. So it's probably cleaner. It's probably safer. There's someone sort of monitoring this. And I think that makes this much more accessible. You're not going to have, in this case here, you could see how, if this is in a park and it's late at night, you could have people hanging out here. They're hanging out on these benches and there's no one to tell them to go away. So it might be in a kind of an uncomfortable place to be at night. Whereas this one, it's lit up. You have someone maybe working there at a counter. You have people like actually hanging out, which is cool, like, but not in a subversive way. Like this is like, hey, you're out, you're under the lights, you're meeting someone. Like, hey, meet me at the washroom in the park before we go out for a drink, whatever it is. This becomes more of a destination. It's more of a landmark, I would say. So the downside of that is I think this would be trickier to disperse across the city. I think there's only a handful of locations where this might be more applicable. Whereas something like this, like you could populate this all over the place depending on the scale. This one's going to be a lot harder to put into smaller spaces, little parks, things like that. Probably more expensive if you have someone working there, but let's look at it in detail. They have a solar roof. That's great. Helps power some of the stuff at night, which is always kind of cool. Translucent roof lights, that just means like during the day, this will be nice and bright inside. Some illuminated signage, that's kind of nice. It makes it more of a beacon, right? Where it's the other one, they pop up here and there. It's more of an afterthought. This is like an actual destination. Like, meet me. We're going to meet before we go to the subway or something. Like, hey, meet me at the little cafe near the washroom. It becomes a place that's a little more specific. They're showing bike racks. That's great. So you can see how in a park this becomes a little bit of a hub. And I like that. You can bike over to the park, you lock up your bike, you can grab a sandwich or whatever at this little kiosk in here. The washroom's there if you need it. So this one's it's adding a couple more layers of function, which I think is really nice. And just the fact that you have someone working here, you've called it an attendance pod for visibility, increased security, safety, exactly the stuff we talked about. You don't have someone necessarily like watching you go in and out of the washroom, which maybe, you don't want that, right? But just the fact that you know that there is someone there, maybe need help or you feel uncomfortable or whatever, like there's someone working there and, they can make a call, whatever they have to do. So I like that. You get a bench out here. It's kind of a spot to hang out. It makes it feels less like a washroom and more of like the washroom is sort of secondary. And it kind of becomes about this sort of hangout spot in the pod in the front. And like, oh, hey, also we got washrooms. Nice little bonus. So I really like this one. Dog leash ties, like that's pretty cool. They thought about everything. Water fountains, sure. Different claddings to make it colorful and kind of fun and engaging. We talked about a good washroom should be inviting. Should be a space you want to actually go to and use. And this is totally that. Like I could see how this one could feel dingy after a couple years and it hasn't maybe been kept up and the concrete, whatever that material is, starting to show some wear and tear. But this one, it just feels kind of bright and shiny. There's someone working there. It's more inviting. It's got that, it feels more like a business almost, right? Which generally have nicer washrooms than public washrooms. So it's got a nicer feel. We don't have to break down the actual washroom, I think, that much. All these projects pretty much provide the stuff you need. Change tables, turning radiuses, grab bars, all that kind of stuff. So the art of the washroom, sure, there's some art inside. That's kind of cool. anytime you can jazz it up, why not? And this one, I think, was specific to a particular park in Toronto, Dufferin King Parkette. And you can see how they've slotted it into, this is the whole park here, and then this is the intervention, and how they've placed it in there. And it works really well at that scale, right? You could have 100 people in this park on a nice sunny Saturday afternoon. You have bike parking. You have a attendant there to watch the bikes so they don't get stolen. There's washrooms there, so it just makes it accessible to sort of spend a day there, which I think sort of transforms the park. Wet my whistle talking for so long, gives me a dry mouth. This is a little plan diagram, not huge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 washrooms. That's fine. 6 washrooms with the accessible. You have the attendance pod up here. This is the sort of hangout space, which is covered by this big canopy that goes all the way around, which is great. If it's raining, you can dodge under there for a minute. And then just showing a few renderings in place. And I just love this image. I think this is so inviting. It's bright. They're showing it at night, which I think is kind of critical. It's like, what is this space like at night? That's a big factor. So, big fan of this one. What do we got here? Number 3. What do we got? So this one's called Mycomorph, by a team from Hamilton, right next door to Toronto. So they sort of know what's going on. Right off the bat, this one looks, I would say, maybe the most realistic. They've done a good job at like just structurally. You can see we talked about the other one had kind of a heavy lid on these concrete glass blocks. This one, similar situation. They have what looks to be a pretty heavy looking roof. Again, looks to be concrete, but right away I can see, sure, there's glass kind of winding its way around the top of these. But if you look in here, there are some structural elements holding this up. So that just makes me think, hey, these people probably know what they're doing, like architecturally. It's someone maybe a little more advanced than the first group. This one looks totally fine. The second one, I think that's entirely feasible. It's quite simple. Structurally, it's not doing anything crazy, so I think that's fine. This one, it shows me that they have that extra level of understanding. They sort of know what's going on. And even the diagrams right off the bat, they look pretty detailed. I think these are almost architectural drawings. These details, these layouts, they look very professional. And it's cool. They have different sort of sizes of pods, right? We have small ones. And I think that's a good point that they bring up with this diagram, is not every stall necessarily needs to be accessible. You don't need a wheelchair turning radius in every single washroom, and that is also true in the building code. And you can be a lot more efficient if you provide these smaller ones. So I think that's kind of a smart move. So I don't mind that. Multi-user washroom pod. And this one's interesting, so it's kind of blurry. I took a screenshot of these, so some of the detail gets lost. I'm still experimenting with how to mark these things up in my video process here. But I did read the brief, and you can kind of read that. Universal plus shower plus family pod. So the fact that they included a shower in this one, that's going a bit above and beyond. And when you read the brief on this one, it kind of describes that as providing those hygienic facilities for homeless people, or maybe you're at the park and you're playing catch and you're getting sweaty or whatever. Maybe you do need a shower after, but I think they're sort of targeting the homeless population with that, and they do mention that in their brief and those that are unhoused. So I think that's kind of a cool addition. It's not just a toilet and a sink. The fact that you have a shower in there, you really can go in there and fully clean up if you need to. So I appreciate that. I think that's kind of a nice thought. And again, kind of like the first one, we talked about how it was a series of pods. I think this one is kind of similar in that there's these different sizes and variations, right? We talked about that. And then you can start to do the same thing in the scale of this and how you deploy it. And that's what I think this diagram is getting at. It's just showing these things in different combinations and different numbers, and how you can start to deploy that across the city with like 2 washrooms here, 8 washrooms there, 15 washrooms here, and you can meet the needs of that particular space and adapt it as needed. And that adaptability, I think, is great. Right renderings, I mean, it looks really nice. It almost looks like there's a green wall on the outside. So, okay, they're calling it a cladding panel. Has a green roof, so that's great. The first one did as well. Anytime you can add a green roof, I mean, especially in a park, it helps. You're providing some cooling, some natural cooling from the sun. You're providing a little bit of habitat for some birds, things like that. It's great for like pollinators and bees, whatever. You're not going to have people up there, ideally. So it's not meant for people to be up there. But you can see how, you'd have some birds and bees up there. It just gives them a little bit of a safe space to do their thing with the flowers. And yeah, it looks really nice in this setting, right? I don't know what that wall cladding panel is. Do they describe it? It looks like a green wall, but I don't know what it is. Precast concrete, cellulose insulation, site-specific cladding panel. Okay, so it doesn't look like it's a green roof or green wall assembly, but I guess they're saying you can kind of customize these assemblies as needed. So depending where you're putting it in the city, you can localize it with artwork, or maybe it is a sort of a green panel with grass growing on it or whatever. Although I don't know how that would do in the winter. Toronto winters can be a bit intense. All right, one more. Last one. What do we have here? Loop-de-loo. Another team from Toronto. Love the name. This one's just fun. It's very playful. And talking about like an inviting space and something that you want to go see and you're comfortable around, like this looks like fun, right? Like it looks like something from a playground or something. So I applaud them for that. They called these things like sun snorkels, and they're bringing light, into the space. It's colorful. It's round. We talked about that from the safety perspective. There's no corners at night, you can't really hide around the corner because the whole thing is circular. Just adds that element of safety. Looks pretty cool in plan. It's quite efficient. And this has some similar elements to the last one in that the one 2 ago, because this one you have an attendant working there, which I like. So I'd say like this one and this one are sort of most similar, and then this one and this one are sort of most similar. Because at this one, you also have a space for an attendant. As you can see in the plan here, this is kind of an attendant's room. And I don't know if this is like a sales desk. Maybe it is, where you could sell beverages, sandwiches, whatever. You have someone working there just keeping an eye on things, which is great. And then they can go in behind to this sort of maintenance room, which from like a plumbing maintenance perspective is great because it has access to the back of every single washroom pod. And then you have a series of these pods just kind of working the way around the outside, right? Each one is accessible, and then we have one extra large one here, which is always nice. Looks like that's kind of an adult size changing table in there, which is, sometimes you need that. But each one of these looks like a wheelchair turning radius, so that it's got the grab bars, everything you need from an accessibility perspective. Pretty efficient in that it is round. It's not wasting a lot of space. This one's a little different than the others in that this is, I should say, it's similar to this one in that it's one building. It's not a series of pods that you can aggregate. But I think they do show a similar, smaller version down here, which is kind of what we're getting at with the scalability and the adaptability of these things. So I like that they did this and they kept the same form, like the same architectural elements. It's round. It's got this kind of cool colored steel cladding. It's got the sun snorkel on top. Little porthole window. I'm assuming you can't see through that. It would just be opaque for light passing through, right? With some opacity through there. But so that solves the issue of moving these things around the city, right? Because not every space is going to have a room. It's going to have enough space for one of these big ones that has what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 toilets plus the attendant space. It's fairly big for some spaces. So the fact that they went that step further for a nice, smaller, compact, single washroom version, I think that's great. And the fact that they kept the same visual elements, it's clearly part of the same family. Like these are linked up, most certainly. If you saw this big one somewhere in the city and then the next day you saw this one somewhere else, you'd know it's a washroom just because it's very unique and it's kind of capturing the same spirit. So I think that's really good. It's recognizable. It's one of those sort of landmark beacons. You see it, you know what it is. Hey, it's a washroom. I got to use it. Then it's exactly what you're looking for. So that kind of breaks down that one. These are nice boards too. I mean, these were the 4 that were selected. Sort of the shortlisted, maybe not the shortlisted, but these were sort of the 4 winners. So they did a really nice job in terms of their sort of key renderings, right? These are the renderings that are going to grab your attention, and then the boards, again, they're really nicely done. They're nice level of detail. This one's a little simpler on the end, which honestly I kind of like. This one is maybe a little busy. It's tough to sort of get into the level of detail that you want, but the level of detail is there. And even just, we talked about the green roof on the other one, right? Look how much more realistic this one is. This is, I would say, done by a young architect or a licensed architect. The structural concrete looks legit. They're showing multiple layers of things there, waterproofing, drainage layers, soil, and then the grass on top. So this one seems very realistic. They have proper foundations, which the other one did not, I don't think, when you look at this section. Yeah, like this foundational stuff down here is not realistic. You need a little more going on down there. So you can just tell this done by someone younger, but at this kind of a design competition at this stage, it sort of doesn't matter. Like, it's nice if you can get to this level of detail with this one, and it just seems more realistic. But it's an ideas competition. It's meant to be a little bit loose, and it's the idea. It's the spirit of your design that's trying to capture the jury members and sway them to pick your design. So it's less about like the technical details and more about like, hey, which of these could we push a little further into reality and actually see them popping up and really doing some positive work for the community. So who do you think won? Right? Let's get to that. We've spent enough time breaking these down. I'm just gonna delete some of my marks here. Delete all that. Clean this up a little bit. So what do we got? We got 4 of these to choose from. Personally, if I was to pick my favorite, I think I have 2. I like this one a lot, this Toronto toilet, in that it is multifunctional. There is someone working there that adds that layer of safety and security and just having an eyes on. You know someone's watching the space. You're not going to walk up and, spray paint it or something. It'll keep it cleaner. It just adds that extra level of thought and function to the building. So I really like this one, but it's not as scalable, right? We talked about that. You can't necessarily deploy this thing all over the city. It's not going to fit every single site, but maybe you can adapt it. But that one, and I do also like this one, the Loop-de-Loo. I think this one's just fun. It takes some of the issues with this other one here, the Toronto toilet, and solves those. So if you could sort of combine these two, I think you'd have the ultimate winner. But on its own, this one has a lot of merit. I think it's really good. It's fun. It's accessible. They solve that ability to deploy this thing all over the city, so you could start to see, you could see hundreds of these in a city like Toronto. These little single pods, these could be everywhere, and you would know right away what they are. It would be almost like a landmark in the city, right? And you could see a photo. If you could see one of these in the background, you would know it's a photo of Toronto. So I like that about this one as a landmark. So those two, I think, are my favorite. But who actually won? All right, so let's break it down. So there was a People's Choice winner, and the People's Choice winner was this guy right here, In Passing. So kudos to them, Toronto team, Nitesh and Laura, well done. You got the People's Choice Award. We also had 2 runners-up. One of them right here, Loop-de-Loo, runner-up. So good job from them, Toronto team. Matt from Yimby Studio. Maybe I should check that out actually, and see what they do. But very cool design. I like this one a lot. It's fun. What more can I say? It's very cool. I like how they painted the ground to match the door, right? So you can see the door swing. So that's yellow. This one's kind of green. There's a blue one there. And they did the same down here too. So I don't know. That's just kind of fun. Like you paint the ground where the door is going to swing out. Why not? It's fun. So runner-up. Well done. Congrats to that team. All right, so we got 2 left. It was between these 2. Toronto Toilet and the Mycomorph. We have 1 more runner-up. It's interesting that there was 2 runners-up. I don't know how they chose that, but the other runner-up, the Toronto Toilet, the UK-based team. Love this design. I think it's really well done. Solves a lot of problems, and it's super functional. So big fan of that design. Big team there. Kudos to them. Which means the winner was this one, Mycomorph. Super realistic. It's got that extra level of sort of detailing and realism, and it's scalable. You can deploy this all over the city. They added the shower feature, which I think really spoke to sort of the idea of bringing these things to people that actually need them. And how do they describe the competition, right? Inclusive and innovative public washrooms that advocate and spread awareness for the urgent need of a robust public washroom network in the city. And I think that's just it. It's not just serving somebody that wants to park their bike and get a croissant and spend the day in the park. It's serving someone that might need a shower and doesn't have a place to do that. So this is really a little more inclusive, I think, in terms of who it is serving and how it is serving them. So I think that's why they ultimately won, and it is a great project. So kudos to them. Great projects all around. I'm a big fan of these. I think design competitions are great. I think, honestly, we need more of these. Even if they don't get built, but they spread awareness, they get the discussion going, so I love that. And then sometimes they do get built. These are for real projects sometimes, where you have these design competitions, and then it's best idea wins, which is, I think it's always the way to go, right? You have your jury of educated panelists. They know what they're looking for, and you get a lot of really cool ideas, so they're great. And the second thing here, I like that they did it for toilets and public washrooms. It's one of those things that could use a little bit of innovation. It could be better. A lot of the time, public washrooms could certainly be better. And there's a lot of need. I think most cities could use more public washrooms. It'd be good for businesses. It would be good for the cities. It'd be good for people in the cities. So I think this is a win all around. Kudos also then to Public Space for putting this on. I think they did a great job, and hopefully we see more of these. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. Like, which of these is your favorite? Like, which would you use when the time comes and you're out strolling around Toronto and you need a washroom? Which of these would you prefer to go to? Be super interesting to know. So let me know. If you're into architecture videos, give a subscribe too, because that's all we do here. We're just going to do architecture videos looking at architects, architectural projects, design competitions, design in general, construction, materials, building code, whatever, stuff for students. We're going to do it all, and there's going to be lots and lots of video content coming your way. So if you're into that, give a subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this. It was kind of a longer one. I didn't expect to talk about toilets for over 30 minutes, but here we are. So congrats to these teams. Maybe they'll see this video, and they can leave a comment down below too. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you're into it, like I said, follow along for more, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.